Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. Welcome to another one. In this video, I want to talk about the difference between honesty and truth. Because I see people confuse those two. Honesty is something that is not necessarily true. For example, there might be some event that would trigger you or make you angry or whatnot. And one way of dealing with this is that you don't say anything. You pretend that it's not there and you just ignore it. So you just don't even look at it. Another way is to be honest about it and say, hey, that pissed me off. What the fuck? Or you pissing me off, whatever. Like you being honest about what's happening inside you. But that is not necessarily true. In fact, the truth is something that does not feel bad. Truth is something that is very close to bliss, if not bliss itself. And what I'm saying here, the truth is a feeling. And sometimes people say truth hurts. Honesty can hurt because it's not the truth. The truth never hurts. People may be avoiding the truth, and if they are in the presence of truth and it hurts them, then they're living a lie, obviously. And that's why it hurts, because it's a lie. It's not the truth. But as you go through life, events take place, they trigger you. You can be honest about them, at least be honest with yourself about them. That opens the door. And because that door is open, now what is this feeling that you're sensing? You know, all these feelings that stem from hate, I suppose, right? And then you get to face it, that incoherent feeling. Through honesty, you get to face it. But a lot of people stop there and they say, like, well, I'm being an honest person, and they stop there. But that is, just freezes you in the cycle, and you become a bit of an asshole because you're honest about the distortions, and even though it's a first step and it opens the doors to the truth, it's not the truth itself. This is why I see a lot of people, like, this is like a genre of comedy now springing up, that these people are laughing at their own dysfunction. That these vulgar women are now becoming, but it's sad. Like, I watch these videos, and I don't watch these videos, but I watched a clip, and I immediately saw, it's like, that's very sad. And it's not an authentic thing. They try to imitate somebody who's been honest at one point, but perhaps they already moved through that honesty, and now they're living the truth. But people are copying, and they're thinking that that's the way to comedy. But you can see that they're not authentic, that they're just being very sad, mocking themselves. But there's some alleviation, I suppose, in that. Well, like, if I'm laugh at myself, then other people can't laugh at me. You laugh at yourself because of your dysfunction. I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure it's necessary. I think the real way, through honesty, you find what's inside of you. And by the way, this is what I've also noticed, that when you find that, what's important is to be honest with yourself. To say that to other people in that moment may not be even necessary. I was watching myself. I said, like, how honest should I be about like what's happening inside of me? And then in the end, I realized that, none of it is necessary to be expressed. Because if I do express it, I not facing it. I sort of like release it out rather than releasing in. Okay. People call it venting. I don't think venting is a good idea. Not that I've never vent. I do, but when I do, I'm watching it. Something is horribly off with this thing. Yes, it gives me like immediate release, but it's very akin to masturbation. It's not real, you know. So I tend to watch when I'm about to quote unquote vent, or quote unquote be honest about how I feel, and not do it, because it's a form of complaining, and any form of complaining is what I would call classed as gossip. In a previous video, I just completely categorized this in two fields, and like I always like to make it either something that is harmony inducing or conflict inducing, and one is gossip, another one is gospel. So what I did in the end, I realized that you got to swallow all the gossip. Don't express the gossip. If I were to be categorical and live by this principle, this is what I would do. This is what I'm doing right now. I eat all the gossip, meaning that energy that is there, that doesn't feel good, and rather than spitting it out, which is like a form of black magic, you create things that you don't want. Even though it may be quote unquote what you've experienced, you may be honest about it, but it's just no point saying it. No point of creating it. You can see something that happened, and you can say, okay, this happened, but it's a fact. It's not a truth, because truth is correct. Truth feels good, and this happened. It's just a fact. Yeah, you can acknowledge. Okay, it's a fact. It happened. Now it made me feel like this. Now what I'm gonna do about it? Am I gonna complain about it? Gonna whine about it? Or I'm just gonna eat all of that feeling and zero it out. And when you zero it out, then there's a different feeling, and that feeling is true. It feels nice, it feels blissful, it feels right, and then you speak from that. That becomes a gospel. That's what the true meaning of gospel is. It means basically the word of God, and or the truth. Another way of saying this, ideal, right? Ideal is the truth. And ideal is the state of bliss. It's a feeling. The truth is a feeling. This is why I negate that truth is information. Truth is not information. Information is not the truth. Some information may be beautiful, harmonic, and some information are ugly or discordant. But information is almost like a fruit of the seed, and the seed is the truth. Okay, and it's a feeling. So when somebody says well, he speaks the truth, you gotta be careful, because they may be saying the fact, and that's not the truth. The truth is something very different, and I kind of want to clear the name of the truth, because There's a myth that truth hurts. Nope, truth does not hurt. Lie hurts. If it hurts, it's a lie. Truth feels amazing. Truth is blissful, ecstatic, and that's how the truth feels like. Then also people confuse truth with the fact. They say, yes, like I saw it, this is the truth. I saw it, right? But it's a fact that makes everybody feel bad. And so you can't name this a truth because it's not the truth. It's a fact about some sort of distorted lie. It's a fact, not the truth. Again, I want to clear the truth name here. And I think the use of language in appropriate ways is very important because it is basically programs your mind, right? This is why we can, like I always say, we can't use one word for two different meanings if they actually, you have to have two words for two different meanings. Meaning a significant, profound difference that could mean an opposite flow of energy and use the same word for it. I'm not so sure. The word desire, for example, it's used interchangeably with a tantrum, an ego tantrum, and soul desire. It's, to me, is very different things. I don't call ego tantrum a desire. It's a tantrum. It's not a desire. Desire is something beautiful. Desire is amazing. And all soul desires must be fulfilled. First inside, then outside. But I don't want to divert from the topic. So again, that ideal is the truth. The truth is ideal. And then even the word idea stems from the truth. Krishnamurti was talking about that insight comes from the truth, from the, what he called, a choiceless awareness, a state of this brilliance. That's why another word sometimes people use, like, oh, brilliant. Well, somebody may be very intellectual, they call him brilliant. That's not it. They're not brilliant at all. You can't use that word on somebody who's not brilliant. Just they may be very dark and intellectually developed. That does not make them brilliant. It means something, like diamonds are brilliant. But for example, in technological field, there's a lot of these people who, like, in the AI, and they're like these technocrats and all that stuff. They're not intelligent people. They have no brilliance at all. They're very intellectual. I mean, they may be respected in the same matrix society, but and they even say that, like, well, the truth is something that I'm always interested in, looking for the truth, and then they do everything to find it outside of themselves. Never gonna find it outside themselves, and they're always gonna have to correct for the lie that they create. This is why they need to be defending themselves with the technology, and because they, like Charlie Sheen said, droopy-eyed, harmless children. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that they are cowards. They're not brilliant at all. But they appeal to people who have the same fears as they do. And they say, well, technology is going to drive us into... No, technology is going to be a good tool, yes, but it's not the technology that's going to make everything better. Do not take that credit. It doesn't belong to you. You just, created lots of problems and then invented solutions to this, but you're the one who did it. It's just like this egoic, masculine mode of action, like operating procedure, right? First they create the problem, they instill the fear, and then they create a solution. You know all of this, right? But anyway, I'm just trying to say that what they're claiming that they're looking for the truth, but they're not looking for the truth. They may be finding the facts, but the truth is not there. The truth has to be dug in, and you have to mine for the truth through the coal. That's where you find the truth. In filth. I think Jordan Peterson actually said it. Sometimes Jordan Peterson says something that makes sense. When he's out of this psychological mumbo jumbo, sometimes he speaks from the heart. But the rest of it is just intellectual nonsense that never helps anybody really in the long run. But sometimes accidentally points to the right thing. Anyway, so yeah, going back to this ideal and the word idea, all the ideas come from the ideal. The real ideas. Idea is something that's unique, that's never happened before, right? It's introduced to entire system of simulation that hasn't been there before. That's an idea. Or at least has not been developed. Okay? And that stems from the ideal. But then, of course, what stems from the corrupt is we gotta use something else. It cannot be an idea. It has to be another word, right? And so these are the whatever that is what these technocrats are receiving. They're not receiving ideas. And even if somebody would tell them a good idea, they still would not act upon it because that would undermine their very existence, which is based on the ego and protecting it. I mean, it's such a sad thing that ego is trying to sustain its life, all means necessary, and using technology to do so when it's supposed to be dying every day. It's an abomination. It's sad. Anyway, so again, that's not the truth. The truth feels amazing. The truth never hurts. And I was sort of under the impression that truth hurts, right? And sometimes I would see something in my life and be like, that's so fucked up, and it would hurt me, and I would think that that's the truth. And it would not be the truth. It actually that would be a lie that I have created from my own distortion, for the purpose of me facing it, defining the truth, and creating the truth. The truth feels amazing. Okay? So, what else I can say about this? Well, I've talked about these theories that I have, that I've witnessed, that we seem to have these gems, that the goal of the game is to uncover all of these gems. And we'll go through life, and the next phase in our life is going to be an opportunity to uncover this gem. And so you do it, and then the next is going to be another gem. And as long as you're mining for that gem, you're staying close to the truth. Okay? And then you must be living your true soul purpose and feel amazing, because that's feel amazing. And of course, you gotta develop your own sovereignty, because this you know this yourself. But what I'm trying to say here, truth feels amazing. It's blissful. We all need it. All souls need truth and love, and we should be aiming for it. And we don't aim it by seeking outside of us. We aiming by digging it. That word seek could also have like a double-edged meaning. Seek out, seek in. And if you seek out, that's you always run on a hamster wheel. It doesn't matter how nice it looks. Doesn't matter, if it's like ayahuasca ceremonies and whatnot. It's still a coping mechanism. But if you go the right way, you don't need no drugs, nothing. It's just your courage and surrender to face the things that are there. And once you learn this thing, then you don't need anything outside of you. And every soul's supposed to live that life. Now, of course, granted, some souls have chosen different levels to play, and that's normal. But every soul can do it, whether alchemy or devotion. Alchemy is something that is difficult because it's very masculine, but it's not difficult for the masculine soul, if that makes sense. And because courage is easy for the masculine soul, and surrender is easy for the feminine soul. Devotion, feminine; alchemy, masculine, right? And that is the beginning of the real change. And like I said, if people live in this way, they're following their soul desires. There's no conflicts because everybody's unique and irreplaceable, and they fit each other like pieces of the puzzle. They create something more awesome than independently themselves. If that makes sense, right? That's how souls play. That's the soul game, not ego game anymore. It's so much cooler. It's about creativity and playfulness, not war and conflict and all that stuff. Even though, for this to happen, there has to be protection from the Matrix. Matrix always tries to attack these things because it's obviously it's feels threatened by truth and love, because that's just the way it is. That's why you have to defend that bubble. And this is why I don't think negate the need for military. I don't agree with this like monk type of lifestyle. I don't agree with this. I think people who play the soul game is supposed to be a holistic society, a type of society that's very heavily armed, not to impose their way of life, but protect their way of life. All of this, what I'm saying, was the idea of founding fathers, but the society wasn't ready for that, I suppose. Something got lost in a way, and America got corrupted in the early 1900s. And that's when no longer the America that was founded. But anyway, besides the point, I'm saying that it shouldn't be the country. All countries could adopt the holistic society approach. It's supposed to be a state of being, not a state of country. You can do this in Japan. You can do this in Mexico. You can do this in America. You can do all these countries. It's a type of society that has the principles that are based on harmony. It has no other agenda but to live sustainably, and it's not difficult to do so. It has no political agenda. It has basically no resistance. Nobody resists a permaculture village. It's not a threat. At least now it's not a visible threat at the beginning, right? Like it's like, okay, well, just people live like modern Amish, basically, all right, just let them live. But these places become sanctuaries to people who don't find a place in this world. And again, it's not a freaking community. It's not another fucking cult. It's not another sect. It's just a way of life that is way better. And that's it. Okay. And of course, it has to be based on the truth, which is that feeling. Okay. Now, and I would also distinguish, for example, belief from the truth. A lot of people say, well, you got to believe this or believe this. Like, you got to be careful with that. All beliefs are lies. All beliefs are lies. Because once you just delete the belief is something that felt really bad for you. That's what I call belief. Once you destroy that, you already find the truth that was always there. You don't have to install it from the inside, from the outside. Sorry, it was there already. And so, because it was there already, it started shining through. And then from there, from that good feeling, then whatever you imagine that feels good, you imagine, and you create that. But it's not a belief. You basically, if you want to name it, you're basically creating thought forms from the ideal, from the truth. And you don't have to believe. You don't have to believe in truth for truth to be so. It is different than a belief. Belief is still a doubt. If you need a belief to feel secure that the truth exists, it's a doubt. But when you are from the truth, when you live that feeling, and you create whatever stems from it, so I have to be like kind of specific, right? You feel really good, and from there, from that good feeling, whatever arises is going to be based on truth. But it's almost like you let that thing arise. It's like, what is, and you have these, like, then these beautiful emotions and beautiful thoughts, and you can keep letting them out, right? You keep letting them out and enjoying them, and they become these thought forms that there's in your reality. You can call them angels if you want. If the distorted thought form that is kind of almost like a pending on a conveyor belt, coming to reality, a demon coming to reality to be dissolved and to replace into then an angel, so to speak. But this is just a thought form that was based on a distortion, conflict, and all that stuff. You meet that demon, you slay it, and then you create an angel out of it. And so now all these beautiful thoughts are floating around you, and they're waiting to come into your reality, right? And you juggle these thoughts that feel good. It's like if it's created from the ideal, it's a beautiful thought. It has beautiful emotions, sensations. It may have everything there. It's like a memory. And if you keep revisiting that, it keeps, bringing that sensation out, and you cultivate that, and you giving more and more energy to that thought form in the astral reality. And so you create that reality astrally. And then as you go through life, these things want to come in to you to show you the results of your creation. And it's very interesting, it's interesting when you feel that feeling of truth and you meet other people. You can kind of, some people read other people's thoughts. At first I thought, Well, back in the day, I thought like, oh, some sort of like a magical capacity, to read people's thoughts. But then I realized it's not that at all. It's a contrast to your state, and and it, and these thoughts are popping out. You think it's yours, but it's not yours. None of the thoughts are yours. Like they are just ambient thought forms floating, and whether you're going to be a subject to that, or are you going to not be a subject? For example, you say like, well, that's kind of negative thought, feels bad. You kind of process it, and the good one comes in. But when you meet people, when you live in that state of truth, you are almost automatically processing these thoughts because you've done it yourself. Like you don't even look at it anymore. It to you, it's sort of like, oh, there's this distorted feeling, turns into the blissful feeling, and discomfort. It's like almost in the real time, and so you keep on eating these demons. Like I said, it may feel like um, it's yours or somebody else's, but reality that it's not like that. What could belong to a person is their degree of where are they in the journey, degree of distortion, right? That could belong to a person, but uh, a person may have a lot of distortions, right? And people may have these distortions, right? But uh, in the right ambient, I talked about this in the previous video, um, they don't have to deal with them because the right ambient sort of like compensates for it, if that makes sense. But they have to surrender to that energy of truth, and so they don't have to do their own chemical process, but devotional process, I suppose, it has to be there. Um, uh, and that's something that I see to be like basically where they're at in their video game of life. That's something that person can carry. But the thoughts, it's like if they have this specific distortion, these are the thoughts that are going to be floating. It's not their thoughts, right? It's and just like, well, yeah, I used to have these thoughts too when I had that distortion, but I overcame it. Blah 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 blah. And now they may feel really good in your presence because you overcome that distortion, but they may leave your presence and they're gonna have to deal with that distortion themselves. I mean, it works like that. At least this is the way I see it. But the thoughts that I'm having sometimes, if I'm moving from the distortion, they're the same thoughts that somebody else is having when they're moving from that distortion. They're not different. They're just floating in my mind like bubbles, and I can see them, and it's like, whoa, that's pretty fucked up thought. That's not a good thought. Um, and then the right thing is to keep going back where it's stemming from. If you need to do some chemical or devotional work, you do that. So then that thought is no longer arising in your mind. And sometimes, like I said, there has to be either truth or love, the compassion or passion, bliss or peace. And sometimes when you enter another ambient where people may be having all sorts of like this distorted thoughts, right? What you could do is uh, instead of looking at it, you just simply move to the 0 point, as I call it, and kind of it becomes silent. You're not listening in these anymore. They're sort of like they cannot survive in your field, and sometimes you can even feel it, how they're like kind of just like a flies in the zapper line, right? That's what happens. And that's it. All the lies burn in the truth. And all the fears are silenced by love. Look at me being so romantic. I always have to ruin my videos. Anyway, but that's what I wanted to say today. That's enough, I think, for today. Truth is a feeling. Love is also a feeling. Truth can create beautiful emotions. Love can create beautiful emotions. And sometimes people, you may call that emotion love. But if ultimate love is peace, is this unifying void energy, black, ultimate light is passion or bliss. Right? And together, they're like these levels of intensity, create colors. And let's say the green color, that would be the emotion of love. I know that people sometimes don't name them as emotion. They say all the emotions are negative. But I used to do I used to do the same. But now I realize, like, oh no, I cannot call this feeling, and this one is, also a feeling. No, I can't. There are negative emotions. There are positive emotions. Positive emotions stems from positive feelings, and then negative emotions come from negative feelings. That's what I see, like the feeling, emotion, thought, sensation. That's how I see everything structured. And you can name this different words, but you cannot deny that it's encoded in all geometry. It's encoded this seed, germ, flower, fruit, right? You can call it spirit, soul, mind, body. I mean, it exists, okay? And I'm just clearing up the language and clarifying the language to name things in the right way, so there's clarity there. And we don't name this, we misname it, because a lot of times people mean the same thing but use a different word, and they get lost in the word. So I don't want that discussion to ever happen, so I clarify things like that. So green is a love emotion, and it's amazing emotion, but it came from the combination of the void and the light, from truth and love, the ultimate love. I mean, we call it the same, like, okay, ultimate love, and then this emotional love, the love feeling and the love emotion. We should probably use another word for it. I think we use compassionate love, or compassion sometimes used for that peace energy, out of which the emotion love stems from. And this is why I also say that love is the answer is a myth. Love is not the answer. Love and truth is the answer, and something in between of them is that flux, that something is between the peace and bliss, in betweenness. And that's the magic, that in betweenness, out of which the positive emotions stem from. Alrighty then. And by the way, positive emotions is the process of creation. And the positive emotions feel amazing. And they may give you a beautiful thoughts. And then it comes into the world of sensations and may give you beautiful sensations. Isn't it cool? Truth. Truth is a feeling that is akin to bliss. It's not an information. Fact can be information, or information can be a fact, but it can never be truth. So I want to end this argument, just like this looking for the truth thing, and thinking that like there's a personal truth. Oh, there's my truth and there's your truth. No, they're just fucking beliefs. It's not a truth. Truth does not have conflict. If one person is in the truth and another person is the truth, they both feel blissed out. What kind of arguments can you have there? You can't. There's only creativity and playfulness. Peace out. See you in the next one.